Guys, we had some big tournaments over the weekend. We had BRO for V-PREMIUM, and then we also had Daivangasai in Indonesia. So there was some pretty interesting list on, the Japanese side of the game. But also, V-PREMIUM wasn't as bad as people thought it'd be. If you look at this pie chart right here from Fuzzy Paradox, you can already see there is something strange about it, and that is it's not a full Gurguit picture. You'd be quite surprised that Gurguit just didn't perform very well this weekend in V-PREMIUM, and overall, V-PREMIUM went pretty quickly. Tournament went quick, basically because there wasn't Prism anymore that slowed the entire format down. So yeah, it was a quite an enjoyable weekend. Everything went on time, and the lists were relatively quite diverse in the big scale thing. We're just gonna go through it, all right? So first, we have the AO region for V-PREMIUM. You look at this top 8, this breakdown is pretty interesting. We got 2 Gurgits, and then we had 2 Bermuda Triangle, then 1 Aqua Force, 1 Grand Blue, 1 Narukami, and 1 Shadow Paladin. And I can tell you that Gurguit was the most represented archetype out of everything. All right, there were way more Gurguit decks than there were Orange decks and things like that, at least in the AO region. But Gurguit, only 2 of them got top cut compared to like the other decks, right? And then if we look at the winner, the top 4 ranking, we have WCC Suro coming in first with Thavis, and then we have Gecko State Adrian Barber, right, with Orange, just pure Orange. And then we got Kelly Beyonce with Orange and Orange Highlander variant that's kind of been popping off. That did very well actually this weekend. And then we have Lee SK with the Gurguit, right? And we can take a quick look at the decks. We first have the Thavis deck from WCC Suro, right? Good old Steven, doing very, very well. You can see that this list is lacking Adelaides because he didn't have them. And in a way, that's pretty good because, the terrific Coil Dragon was the replacement, and that allows you to be very, very aggressive. And this is the reason why a lot of these Gurguit decks aren't doing that well, because there is a timing window before Gurguit just absolutely goes insane, right? Basically, before 3XL. That's when you can really push hard and devastate Gurguit players, and that is what basically every single deck in this format is capitalizing on. Going hard, going as fast as you can before Gurguit can start, killing you, right? And overall, when you look at a Gurguit deck, it is quite weak in terms of defense. Only once do they get more defense when they ride their Gurguit, but that is not exactly the best play they want to do, right? If they only have like 1 Gurguit in their hand, they might be more inclined to run something else. And this is why some of these Excel decks, some of these the Orange deck as well, is just very, very good at just pushing in. That's why they've been doing so well. And this is a perfect good example of a Thavis deck just wrecking face, right? And then we have the Orange list here as well. This is the Orange, just pure Orange. This is a very, very aggressive focus list with just, Orange Tira, multi-attack. We saw Adrian play, and he just, whenever he could, he would just go, right? He would, the Lee's-Lots come down, and you can run the Ellies because you're not running the Q-Ties. And then, you've got Nikita here as well. Can be used aggressively because you can play it down, go aggressive, get the power, then draw a card, and then later on bounce it back with your Orange, and then use it as defense as well. And you have the Quail here as well, just soul charging more, and you just bounce it in your soul charge more, so you can kind of spam that with Nikita, and that's how you kind of get an engine going. But this deck played very, very aggressive, and again, would be one of the reasons why you're just winning, because winning fast is winning good in a way, right? Third place we have is we have another Orange list. This is the Kelly Beyonce's list. This is the Orange Highlander list. We saw a great example of how this deck performs in the finals of NA, where once you get these Coutiers going, you basically draw your entire deck and you get like 1 billion cards in your hand. That's basically it, right? This deck you still run the 3 Lee's-Lots, right? Kelly was running 3 Lee's-Lots, so you can still have that early game aggression, but it's just that the late game, you get so big, you get so overbearing, right, that you can kind of beat the Gurgits, or beat all decks that way. And then like against a Gurgit, you can get some damage checks hopefully with your compressed deck, and that's how you survive that matchup. But overall, pretty interesting list as well, just using the power of Coutier. We know that before there was a Prism Highlander list that did very, very well from the aero plays there as well. And basically just taking out that Prism engine now because is not it's a bit not that great anymore, and you're just putting Anj in, and then you have the perks of being able to free up the rest of your spots of other things too. So pretty cool. And then lastly, we had the Lee SK's Gold Paladin deck, and this is just a good old standard Gold Paladin deck. You know, you have your good cards. Yeah, this one's running some Josephus as well, but otherwise, yeah, just very straightforward. 8 stands. And basically, you can see, you know, you're looking at the ratios here. 15 grade 3s. These are basically all dead cards until, well, except for your Heal Guardian, until you get your engine going. And, you know, if your opponent is at low numbers as well, generally, Gold Paladin is not that aggressive early on, especially if they're getting attacked, right? Especially if your opponent's putting on a lot of pressure. Then you basically at least have 1 turn of 3 Excel where you can kind of live, as long as you just don't hit blanks from like 1 to 6, basically. So being aggressive against a Gold Paladin is basically how all these decks have been performing again, and that's why, you know, the Gold Paladin conversion rate seems to be pretty poor. Now we're gonna go to EU and take a look at what happened there. You see here again, we have 2 Bermuda Triangles. The Gold Paladins just did not perform, and I can tell you there were quite a few Gold Paladins still. I played at least 4 of them in EU, because I actually bothered to play. And then we had 1 Shadow Paladin, 1 Genesis, 1 Aquaforce, 1 Cargo, and 1 Great Nature. So there is a lot of decks. There was a lot of decks, basically, in EU. And let's take a look at the winners. So we have Man Long coming in first with the Orange Highlander list. And then the second place got Full Metal Paladin 21 with the Raging Form list. Then you have WCC Suro again with that Thavis doing very well, able to get 2 tops, gets 1 win and 1 third place. And then we got Toby TCG from WCC as well, taking the Astral Poet deck and just doing very well there with 4th place. So let's kind of look at Manlong's kind of build here. Again, we've got the Orange Highlander build with the Coutiers, and then we got the Reindeer as well. This random tech Reindeer is pretty cool. But otherwise, the rest of it is just pretty, you know, Highlander-ish, you know, 4 Sednas. Basically, there's some easy targets where you'd want to just get rid of from the deck. He basically left the Tyria in the deck, and it's like, you know, it's a 2 of Tyria, but eventually at some point, you know, your deck's so compressed, you won't be seeing the 2 Tyrias before you see the card that you actually want. But yeah, otherwise, very cool. He did say that he would want to put in just like a grade 1 perfect guard as well, just in case, so you can search that out with the Coutiers. Otherwise, this was a very well performing deck. Then in second place, we have the Raging Fall deck. This one's quite interesting. You know, this one's only running 3 heals, because here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Heals are good. Heals are actually good, but what happens when you heal like out of your Raging Fall range? So, you know, just run some less of it, right? Just run less of it, run more crits. Yeah, it's pretty good. And, you know, it actually did do well, coming 2nd place and just being able to like pop off and go face and like huge turns where your opponent finds it very hard to guard. But yeah, very nice with the Raging Fall. And then 3rd place, we have the Thavis deck again. We saw it just before. You know, it's doing well, and it continues to do well, so that's great. And then 4th, we got the Astral Portal. It's faster than Gurguit. Again, it is one of those decks where you can just pop off. You see a Gurguit at 2, you just go. They have to have a Heal Guardian, or they might just straight up die. Then once they ride in, then they're kind of forced to ride into their Gurguit, so they have a defensive play with their Gurguit. But, you know, you can still do like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attacks, and then kind of just push through there. Lots of dry checks, lots of pressure as well. And, you know, if they miss their Gurguit skill against like a Valkyria, there's still a 70k swing. And, you know, they have to still commit 4 cards to guard, right? They either have to hit that null, and if they don't, ooh, that's like still a 2-card guard at least from hand, which is very scary. So a really cool Astral Poet deck, still showing that it works in this kind of Gurguit meta, and just overall, it's the most important thing is that it's fast, right? Is that it's fast. And then in NA, once again, this one is much more stacked. We have 4 Bermuda Triangles. There is some difference in terms of what was brought though. We have like the oranges, and then the, like, you know, Highlander, and then the orange Highlander, and they have the 1 Gold Paladin again. Not much showing from Gold Paladin. 1 Aquaforce, 1 Grand Blue, and 1 Murakumo. This one was actually Dueling Dragons, which surprisingly did pretty well. And then the top 4 was once again Manlong, a back-to-back champion now. This is actually, you know, a first. This is actually a first BRO achievement, I guess. Winning 2 regions in 1 weekend, right? So Manlong with the same list as before. Then we had the Gumi guy. I think this was Y-Bars, right? Playing just a pure orange list that went really, really aggressive again to just capitalize on, you know, slower decks. You have Michael, the Titleist, with the Thavis deck, and then we got Sabriai with the Night Rose deck as well. So, quick look at the Manlong Highland deck. Yeah, there we go. It's proven to do very well in the hands of a very, very capable player. So, you know, as Manlong said in his interviews, Banco tier, right? Banco tier. Then the second place was just this orange, not orange Highland, just orange, you know, aggressive orange list. Actually running 3 Lieslots, which is quite surprising, but also running 4 Alenkas to add to that extra kind of multi-attack. I mean, we've seen a previous orange list just running full on tiers. This was only running 2 tiers, but it still has the 4 Alenka. You have like 2 ways to multi-attack. But that does kind of mean that, you know, your defensive options are a bit less because you do have more grade 3s, which is a bit scary, but, you know, Bermuda has ways to get more defense. Then in third place we have the we have the Thavis list. Again, this one is not running Adelaide. What is it? Like, I feel like the Adelaide decks just, well, technically there's only 2 Aquaforce. You know, if you ran Adelaide, if you were able to get the PR, you didn't make it. You had to be a non-Adelaide list for Thavis, right? And then in fourth, we have the Sabrai's list, which ran some interesting cards. I feel like this was just there, you know, for the Narukami matchup, maybe. But otherwise, one thing is just no Tommies, you know, no Tommies, which is, yeah, I think Tommy was getting more popular, but, you know, Sabrai did very, very well. 4th place with Grand Blue, right? Tried and tested Grand Blue, but, you know, seems to have dropped off a bit, you know, just because it wasn't, it's not as hype. I guess it's just like a lot of good decks now, right? It's a lot of good decks. And then we do have the Dueling Dragons deck. This one is quite interesting. I think a lot of people probably forgot what this deck is capable of, or just underestimates it because like it's an old deck. What can it do? And then, like, let's say you just Zombaku a Gurguit. What do? They basically don't do anything, and you just win, right? So like against a lot of decks right now, if you stop their ability to ride, it can get pretty bad, right? It can get pretty bad because everyone wants to scale. Everyone wants more Excel circles. Everyone wants more like more force markers. Though nowadays, like against things like an Orange where they can just build their force markers without riding, that's not a problem, right? But you know, against the Gurguit, you know, that's actually an issue. That's actually an issue. So quite interesting to see this do very well. Made it to top 8 before dying, so pretty cool. And then lastly, I think we have some more, right? We've got Daivangasai going in Indonesia. They had all 3 formats, right? And, you know, Edo was good to provide us with a bunch of deck logs for the top X's. For standard, we had Kairi from Bayu Pradeepa. And then second place was a well-known Reiwa Nessa with Bruce. And third was Andrew Conan with Baron Magnus. And fourth was Ravido Bimo with Overlord. And we can take a quick look at these decks. So this is the Kairi list. Just very, very good. You know, after Inlet Pulse's banned, well, Inlet Pulse got hits with Magnolia, at least, you know, everyone's kind of migrated to the Kairi, which was kind of regarded as the second best deck in the format. And then here we have the Bruce list. There's been kind of a shift back to Bruce. A bit of a shift back to Bruce with the Megan coming out. It's going to be much more aggressive. And then, you know, some of the just... we're seeing Marjorie's again as well. You know, there was a time when Marjorie's didn't exist. We saw people on like Derek's and things like that. We've kind of like moved away from it. So that's kind of interesting. And then in third place, we have the Baron Magnus list as well. This is kind of just it's kind of just a tried and true Baron Magnus list, right? Only 3 of the Persona ride. You know, everything else just, I think we've seen before. And then we got the Overlord list, and Overlord coming in 4th place. Pretty interesting. This is not running the PR as well. It's just straight up normal Overlord, right? Normal Overlord. And then in Premium, we had a bit of it. We can look at the top 8 cut for Premium here. 2 Ripples, 1 Regalia, 1 Eradicators, 1 NLK, and then 1 Spike Brothers, 1 MFD, and 1 Deleters. So that's pretty cool. And then the top 4 cut was, first place was the Mystery Flare Dragon from M. Yusuf Shaifla. And then second was Alfredo Oliver with the Regalia list. Third was Matthew Lee, unfortunately not Bushimat. Yeah, Matthew Lee with the Ripples. And then fourth was David Adipatama Wirab with the Ripple list as well. So all the Ripples seem to have been beaten by MFD and Regalia, which is it's quite interesting. And their lists are, we have the MFD here. You know, just kind of popping off, getting extra turns, getting multiple extra turns. Pretty degenerate deck, to be honest, right? Because your opponent really can't do anything against it. You can't really play around your opponent getting like 2 turns. So it's I don't really think it's okay, right? I don't think it's okay. It feels like it's a bit too tuned, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, this was the winning list. And the second place was the Regalia list. This is kind of just a more tried and true list as well. And we see like the Overtrigger here is just like the older vanilla Overtrigger, so just so you don't dick out in a way. But yeah, otherwise just Regalia. In third place, we have the Ripples. We see this like Revan in this Ripple list, which is quite interesting. Some damage increases as well, right? So just kind of just gonna pop off when you get to Ripple 2. And then we also have the second Ripple list as well. Also running more Revans, right? Is Revan the tech? Is Revan actually the tech? It's interesting, right? Pretty crazy. But I think the interesting one that we want to see today, is this deleter list. I mean, how this deleter list made it. You know, when we're thinking about premium in like Japan, it's like, oh yeah, Ripple, deleters? Yes, that's interesting. I guess the crazy, I want to believe, right? I want to believe, you know, look, Freeze Ray Messiah, well, not Freeze Ray Messiah, Freeze Ray Dragon just stops all forms of aggression. You know, but you only have like 4 damage, right? You know, 4 damage you can usually play around with unless you guard extremely early. Yeah, not running any Chaos Breakers to like break Excel boards is pretty scary as well. But then I guess like you just Freeze Ray and then at some point you like delete her and then just finish them with a new stride. So yeah, I guess that works, right? We'll be able to play. I think we'll be able to play this deck in English soon because we are getting this PR. So kind of excited, right? Kind of excited. And then lastly, we do have the V premium format in Daivangasai again, right? 2 gold paladins. But this one also coming with 2 great natures, which is that seems quite interesting, right? They had 2 Narukami's, but it was like a split, and then we had 1 Gear Chronicle and 1 Neo Nectar. So like you guys know how I like to make fun of Neo Nectar. Neo Nectar actually topped this time, right? Which is pretty cool, right? It's pretty cool. The top 4 though was first place was Nicholas Adrian Wijaya with just the Vanquisher list. Then we had Jovan Anandra Luwanto with Gurguit, and then third we had Alvin Jaya Sugyonto with the other Gurguit, and then got Fred with Eradicators. I actually find it's quite funny. Got everyone with their long names, and then we got Fred. Got Fred of the Eradicators. Yeah. Let's kind of take a look at their list as well. So the Vanquisher list is actually just quite standard. You know, the book Vanquisher, we've seen this for a while. This one is more heavy on the birds, right? To just kind of pop off. But yeah, quite interesting with, you know, book Vanquisher. It's just good. It's from Divine Lightning Radiance. It does the job well, right? And next we do have a new age kind of Gurguit, right? With, you know, the Holy Shine Dragons. This is kind of the standard build we've been seeing from Japan as well. You know, the 3 kind of Holy Shines. And then, yeah, the 2 targets of like the Percival and the Prominence core, right? So, you know, so you just have more ways like kind of multi-ride in case like your Percival does get hit to damage. And then the rest of it is like, you know, actually running some crits actually. This one is just a Rainbow Trigger. So that's kind of interesting. Normally, I think it's more popular just from like more fronts, just max out the fronts. But I guess you want the crits just to have some pressure, right? And then otherwise, the rest of it just like, you know, more liberators and just ones, pretty much that, right? And then second, we got the Don't Ban Percival Gold Paladin. This one's not running any Holy Shine. It's just running a normal Gold Paladin list, which is quite surprising. You do have more. You have more like ways to play to build the deck, but I guess they just don't like the inconsistent or forcing to run like some Liberators at the grade 2 slot. That is a valid concern. And then just run the kind of a more stable Gold Paladin build. Again, it's running 5 crits as well over just like more fronts. This tournament, by the way, is not an open deck list tournament, by the way. So, you know, your opponent won't know that you're running 8 fronts, but people are still opting to just run more crits than fronts. Then in third place, we do... Actually, this is the 4th place. We do have the Eradicator list, right? So this isn't Vanquisher, just actually Eradicators. And Eradicators does get some good stuff with Vowing Reverse from the new clan collection. So this is quite cool, right? Able to see, like, you know, 2 forms of Narukami being very effective in V and usually in Premium as well. But then we have some extra lists as well. We have to dig up some more lists. So here is that new Elector list that was it did quite well. I like this list because it's so easy. Like what they do is they run the new cards, which is basically a ride line, right, from the new set. And they run the old Arboros kind of ride line. They mash it together, then put in just a few extra cards, and we're good to go, right? We're kind of good to go. So, I guess it's kind of cool. It's like they just merged Arboros and Maiden of Stand Puny together into this one card, but then at the same time they mashed them both together into just that one deck as well, from the Arboros side. So yeah, at least it made top 8, right? It made top 8. And then next we do have this GC list that made top 8. This was piloted by Geraldo Joseph, with just Steam Maidens. Like, yeah, Steam Maidens, pretty cool. We have seen it do well, right, in the Japan region at some points. Then it kind of dropped off, but we can see that it's still effective. I think the real question is it more effective than Chronojet? And I think the answer might be yes. The answer might be yes, right? And then the last list we get to see is the Great Nature list, right? And again, Great Nature seemingly seems to have just like popped off out of nowhere. And this was piloted by Lycan Hananto. I guess it's just like the Leopold reverse just adds a lot more, just adds a lot of power, really. And then at the same time, again, is able to just go aggressive. Is able to go fast, make a lot of circles, push damage. Basically what you want to do in this format, because again, you still have the monster that is Gurguit. You also have things like Luwad, but Luwad is relatively slower now. And, you know, slow kind of loses to Gurguit. But you just have to go fast. You actually still have to just go fast, and the format stays fast. Go first, go big, go wide, and then win. So overall, this is pretty cool. We had a lot of V is surprisingly diverse. I'm not sure if it's exactly balanced right yet. I'm not like, people might be bringing the spice for BCS. So we're not too sure. But again, right? Also, we have to keep in mind that BSF was the previous season. That was a Springfest. So people are more willing to bring those inconsistent decks. And look, if Gurguit is one of those inconsistent decks that people bring, but still it does well because it can just super pop off, right? Does that translate well to a singles? And we had a big singles from this weekend with like 8 rounds each in every single region. And we had like different results than we think. So I think that's a lot to theory craft. That's a lot to think about. And it is something that you should have that mindset for when going into the next tournament scene as well, especially with those clan collection cards being released that will totally change up the game once again. So that was an interesting weekend, a great weekend. I hope everyone had fun. Everyone had fun playing at their respective tournaments, regions, or whatever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Again, if you want to see more tournament decks, we will have them all at VG Top Decks as well, with like the comments, so we get to like kind of talk about it, how it is, how people had fun, how people performed, and what were the like other things that they want to talk about, right? So yeah, keep an eye out for that on like Thursday-ish, Friday-ish, depending on when I get that video out. But yeah, that is it for me now. See you guys around. All right, bye.